Good evening. Please stand and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Welcome to the October 8th meeting of the the Board of Trustees of the School Town of Speedway. We've got a 17-item agenda tonight, and the first item is to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the September meeting.
I'll second.
Wonderful. Any discussion on that? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from the September 10 meeting indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0.
Minutes are signed.
Wonderful. The second item on the agenda is a public hearing for lease and additional appropriation. And to do this, we need to hold a hearing on the proposed lease agreement for the construction projects and an additional appropriation hearing on the proposed bond proceedings, which will be received by the school corporation. If you're interested in speaking at this hearing, please make sure you've signed the sign-in sheet, which is actually now up here, so you would need to let me know that. And at this hearing, we will ask anyone who is going to comment to limit their comments to 3 minutes, and that the topic be limited to the lease rental payments under consideration. Notice of this hearing on the lease agreement was published as legally required in the Indy Star and the IBJ. Pursuant to Indiana Code 2047-3, before a school corporation can enter into a lease with a nonprofit building corporation, the school corporation must conduct a hearing regarding the execution of that proposed lease document and whether the rental to be paid to the building corporation under the proposed lease is a fair and reasonable rental for the proposed improvements. Similarly, before the school corporation can appropriate any dollars it directly receives as bond proceeds, it's got to conduct this hearing on the proceeds for the additional appropriation of those funds. We'll now hear from Dr. Trebley about the projects, which have been described in several previous meetings.
Thank you, Madam President. This is once again, we've discussed over multiple months. This is the project A and C, along with other items throughout the corporation, such as mechanic rooms, the junior high Fisher building structure, Jordan Auditorium, and the list goes on and on. Those are all posted on the website. Those are items that we've talked about. And I'm open to any questions this time on the projects that we've discussed over the last few months.
Okay. And we're now opening the public hearing. Okay. And if no one in general is here to speak about this, then I'm going to continue on with my script. And do we not
Close it.
Yeah, we close this public hearing. So now we're going to start adopting some resolutions related to the public hearing we just had. And do we have Lauren come up?
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Lauren Seiler. I'm from Ice Miller, serving as bond counsel for this proposed bond issuance.
So, again, reading from my script here, well, actually, does this need to be read? As required by Indiana Code 2047-3, after a lease hearing, the school board needs to approve the lease agreement, authorize the board officers to execute the lease, and the lease is the agreement whereby the school corporation levies the required property tax to pay the lease payments throughout the life of the bond issue. Lease payments will be paid to the building corporation and used to pay the bondholders to repay the proposed bonds. So,
And that's just with respect to the resolution authorizing the execution of the lease agreement that you approved at the last board meeting.
okay. So can I have the motion for item 3 on our agenda, which is to adopt the resolution authorizing the execution of the lease?
I'll move that we adopt the resolution authorizing the lease.
I'll second.
Any discussion on this one? Okay. All in favor of adopting the resolution authorizing the execution of the lease indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. And is that one of the ones we have to sign?
There are some resolutions in connection with that. We can also do that after the meeting if that's convenient.
Sounds great. Then the next item is, am I right? Now we're moving on to the additional appropriation resolution.
Yes, and essentially, this, as you mentioned, the school corporation will receive proceeds at closing in connection with the sale of the leased premises to the building corporation. This is simply the authorization for the school corporation to appropriate those sale proceeds, use those dollars towards the approved project.
Is there a motion to adopt the additional appropriation resolution, which is item 4 on our agenda?
I move that we adopt the additional appropriation resolution.
I'll second.
And do we have discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of adopting the additional appropriation resolution indicate by raising your hand. And that also passes 5-0. Then the next item is the resolution assigning construction bids to building corporations. Could you summarize that for us, please?
Yes, happily. So the building corporation, as you know, will be the issuer of these proposed bonds, the owner of the leased premise, and they will hold some of the bond proceeds after the purchase of the leased premises. The school corporation will retain the right and authority to receive and approve bids for the construction project. This resolution simply gives you the ability, if you so choose, to assign certain of those contracts to the building corporation for administrative or other efficiencies.
Is there a motion on item 5, which is to adopt the resolution assigning construction bids to building corporation?
Sure. I'll move to adopt the resolution to assign construction bids to the building corporation.
I'll second.
And do we have discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of approving this resolution, please indicate by raising your hand. And that also passes 5-0. And then we're going to wrap this up with the resolution approving the supplement to master continuing disclosure undertaking and issuance of bonds. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, happily. So the school corporation is already party to the master continuing disclosure undertaking. Essentially, that is in compliance with SEC regulations that require issuers of bonds to disclose certain financial information and material events to bondholders. This supplement essentially will just allow the school corporation to continue its obligation or to continue its compliance with those requirements, but also in connection with these particular 2024 bonds.
Wonderful. What's the board's pleasure on item 6?
I'll move that we adopt a resolution approving a supplement of master continuing disclosure undertaking and the issuance of bonds.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have discussion on this?
So this is the continuation of the agreement that we have because of the bond issue that we're about to pay off for the construction at Doobie?
That's right. And so there will be technically 2 documents that'll be executed between the sale and the closing with respect to these bonds. One is an amendment to that existing agreement. Given the amount that's being proposed to be issued, it does require the disclosure of certain operating data on an annual basis that under your current bond obligations, you're not required to disclose. And then a separate supplement, which basically brings these 2024 bonds under the guise of that master agreement.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All in favor of approving the resolution approving supplement to master continuing disclosure undertaking and issuance of bonds, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. The seventh item on our agenda is to accept bids for bid set A2 and co-op agreements. Are you done with this one? Thank you, Lauren, very much. Like, you're on. Who's talking to us about that? That's you?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. If John, Brian, if you'd step up, he's with Veritas, our owner's rep. Just let you know that these bids and for the co-ops have been vetted through the right procedures along with the recommendation of Meyer Najum and Veritas. They include earthwork and utilities, building site concrete, structural steel, asphalt, precast, scoreboard, play clock, time clock, bleachers, press box, engineered slab, synthetic turf, and Musco lights. So that's what's gone through so far. We have more to go, but that's went through. So if there's any questions, I think Mr. Bryant can answer any of those through this process, if you have any questions.
Let's first, do we have a motion on the item? On item 7?
I'll move we accept bids. What's the language exactly here? Let's see. Accept bids for bid set 8.2 and the co-op agreements.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? You all good?
I'd hate to bring you up, but I'll ask.
I have a question. Just out of curiosity, how many different bidders did we have?
So we had fantastic bid coverage across all the bid packages. The biggest one that we had was the earthwork and utilities package. That was about 25% of the project. There were 7 bidders that submitted on that. We had a range of about $1 million between the highest bid and the lowest bid, which shows how important it is to solicit multiple bids. I think the lowest bid package we had 3 bidders on, which is still fantastic. And that was for structural steel, which is 3%. So it's a small project. You're expected to not have a super high bid coverage, but we still had 3 show up. So we had fantastic coverage across all packages, which was fantastic.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Else? Okay. All in favor of accepting bids for bid set A2 and co-op agreements, please indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much. We're going to shift gears and talk about our school improvement plans.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share the exciting steps Speedway Elementary Schools are taking to ensure our students receive the highest quality education. In your packet, you should find the summary for the 4 elementary schools. While schools are required to develop a school improvement plan every 3 years, we all know that our students' needs and the needs of each building and the district as a whole are constantly evolving. That can easily be seen just by the population numbers at the top of each of our summaries if you were to compare it to previous years. That's why tonight I'm here to present a summary of our focused plans to support both students and staff for the 24-25 school year. Over the past few years, we've worked on several key and district-wide initiatives designed to foster unity amongst our elementary schools, while also respecting the unique needs of each one. Some of these initiatives include partnering with Smeckens Education to enhance our Riders Workshop block, providing Orton Gillingham training to all of our K-2 teachers, delivering morphology training to all 3-6 teachers, and developing, revising district-wide curriculum maps and pacing guides through the support of our instructional coaches. You'll notice on these summaries that many of these initiatives are woven into the action and professional development plans for each building. This year, one of our major district focuses is the transition to the new 2023 state standards. Yes, I said 2023. But our 3rd through 6th grade students are still being assessed based on the 2020 standards through this year. As we prepare for this transition, our team is committed to supporting staff as they unpack these new standards, as well as align curriculum maps and pacing guides with the state's checkpoint assessments. These are new assessments that will be administered 3 times a year and will only cover limited portions of the new standards. That will result in a need to completely revamp our maps and pacing guides. Of course, while these district-wide efforts are essential, each school also tailors its plans to meet its unique needs, again, which you can see in the summaries. For example, you will see at Newby Elementary, the staff recognize the need for additional support in reading foundational skills, particularly in grades 3 through 6, to support our increasing multilingual learners population. Allison Elementary is continuing its work on trauma-informed classrooms, creating supportive environments for all of our students. Wheeler Elementary has identified number sense as an area requiring additional focus based on student data. And Fisher Elementary is receiving enhanced support for the science of reading to strengthen literacy instruction. This is just a brief snapshot of the comprehensive school improvement plans for our 4 elementary schools. We are all committed to ensuring our students thrive academically and socially. Are there any questions that I or one of my colleagues can help answer? Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for how intentional this is. It's nice to actually see the fact that we know each of you are in your buildings every day with your staff looking at these things, but taking the data and really tying it back into really intentional things that are specific to your building. I think as a parent in the district, I think that's really encouraging and should give everybody comfort that you've got really intentional, thoughtful professionals behind all of this. So,
Thank you.
And I want to congratulate all of you. As you know, I've said before, the most important thing you all do is hire good people. And these kind of things are indicative of the type of people that all 4 principals have in their buildings, and continue that. Congratulations to leadership and teachers as well.
Thank you, and we thank you as well for accepting those recommendations for hires as well.
If I could add something to this, that our school improvement plans have to be updated every 3 years. So next year, we get to start from scratch and start over again. This school improvement plan that we give to the board each of those non-3 years, you know, that's not necessary, but it just shows you the work that our principals do to make sure that every year we take a look at data and we update those. So, and it was a recommendation by the board that the elementary are all the same format now. That's the first time that's happened since I've been here, and I think it's a great suggestion. So.
It is a great suggestion, and it was appreciated. I should have thought to say that. I mean, it did. I'm embarrassed to say, I couldn't remember if it was the second year or but it was like, oh, I love that this is all this way now, that you're not trying to weed through and compare them. And so that's really nice. I have a question, maybe it's an in-between question, but, and it is just that, when the school, so we're going into the, you know, the first year of the new 3-year time, and are school improvement plans done, how? You principals sit in your office and come up with it? You have a committee, you have the teacher, who's involved, how does that work?
We have a committee that is made up of staff and community members, typically just parents.
So that's tied in with that school, those school improvement meetings and such that end up coming into this directly.
Correct, yeah.
Along with our instructional coach, and then our teacher grade level, we have a grade level team that, along with the instructional coach.
Mm-hmm.
Ours, mostly the staff, and then Shane and I, we do have school improvement meetings, but to be honest, a lot of parents don't show up. But when they do, we take their input also. But our input's a lot from our teachers and our staff. I don't have instructional coaches, so Shane is kind of my instructional coach.
Kind of like with these meetings, right? When people aren't here, that must be that because they're all very happy with us.
Yeah. Take that.
Junior high.
All right. Well, good evening. And again, I'd like to give a short summary of the improvement plan at the junior high. May not be quite as fancy as Lance, but we'll touch on some new things that we're doing, some new initiatives. I start off at the top, and I think you have the handout there. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but I think one jumps out a little bit, and that is the English as a second language up 19%. So we're about 34% of our enrollment at 264 kids right now is what our enrollment is. And so that is obviously an area that needs our attention. I asked my ELL teacher for a couple other statistics, and she said that as of today, we have 72 students being serviced in the junior high out of 264. We have 15 different languages being spoken, and now the #1 country of origin of our new students this year is Haiti. So it's kind of switched over, changed from years past, I believe. So that's just a little bit of summary at the top. Everything else has kind of stayed the same. Like I said, our enrollment, I've been here 21 years, and that's about right, 264 students, so not a lot changed there. The summary of data, I'll just touch on that. Again, that's our iLearn data, and again, those numbers are they're staying the same. We hope this year we're adopting Checkpoint, and I'll talk about it in just a minute. Lance hit on that just a little bit as a new formative assessment, and hopefully those will jump those scores up. But I would like to brag for just a minute on our teachers, not myself at all. It's the teachers. We were first again in Marion County in all 3 areas out of 20 junior highs. We were first in passing language arts, math, and both. So congratulations to our staff. They do amazing work with our students. Our goals, just to sum those up, have not changed a lot over the last few years. The first goal is that we show growth in math comprehension, and I think I've mentioned what we do with our math program. We break it down a little bit, and in our 7th grade, after the first semester in their geometry class, we break them out into either accelerate math or pre-algebra, again, trying to find the needs, specific needs. Our pre-algebra kids are more accelerated, even though it's not called accelerated. It's a weird way to name it. And that way we address those needs before they get into the 8th grade. And then in 8th grade, along with the checkpoint assessment that I'll talk about in just a second, we obviously have regular pre-algebra, which is our normal 8th grade curriculum, and we have obviously offer algebra as a high school credit class. And right now we have 58 students in our algebra class. So 58 of our students are actually getting their high school credit. And this year we have 1 student that is actually taking a class at the high school. We always offer that as an option to challenge our students that want to maybe take algebra as 7th graders. They can come in the summer, take an assessment that our math teachers have put together, and if they score high enough, they can take algebra as a 7th grader. Causes a little bit of transportation issues in 8th grade because they have to get back and forth to the high school. But this year we have 1 student that was able to do that. So, and then moving to goal 2, it's pretty much the same except with our reading comprehension, trying to improve that area. And again, with our ELA program, we double block in 7th grade still, as we've been doing. We have regular language arts. We now have honors language arts. In our honors, we are now servicing 51 students in honors in 7th grade language arts. 8th grade, we kind of do the same thing, and we have 62 students in our honors 8th grade. They're really we're about ready to break into 3 sections instead of 2 because so many kids are getting into our honors language arts in 8th grade. And then also in language arts area, we do have a reading specialist that you guys were kind enough to hire a few years back, and we make good use of her. And those students that need extra help because they're below grade level, we put into those classes. So those are the things we're doing to try to attack those goals that we've set. And very quickly then, the last goal is our attendance goal. We want to be at 97%. COVID threw a little bit of a curveball at us a few years ago. We're rebounding from that, and last year we were up to 95.6%, and I just checked our first quarter attendance. We actually are at 97.1%, so we're over the hump, if we can keep it that way. And we do some things there, as all the schools do, contacting parents after a certain amount of attendance issues. So I do want to take just a minute. I kind of went through that quick because I do want to point out 2 new programs that we are doing. One directly related to instruction, and that is we've adopted a new formative assessment called, as Lance mentioned, Checkpoint. And it is to take the place of NWEA, and it is given 3 times a year. And our teachers right now, we've had 2 of them give it. The second one was today, and she came in my office after second period, our 8th grade language arts teacher, and said, I love Checkpoint. This is going to be great. My 7th grade math teacher's already given it, and he loves it. So, so far, fingers crossed. It's new to us right now, but very positive returns on it. They like the idea that it's focused more on just, they tell you which standards. It's not like NWA was like the whole year standards that you test over, and so the scores were just kind of all over the place. This is much more focused, at least according so far. And like I said, we've only given it twice, or 2 teachers have only given it, and so I'm anxious to see what that does. We'll take it 3 times, and then of course everyone will still take the regular summative iLearn in the spring. So our hope is that with this new, adopting this instead of NWA, that'll benefit our students in the spring when we get iLearn next year. Those numbers are going to creep up a little bit. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is something new. We have a new program at the junior high, and we are focusing on character education, and we have adopted the acronym PLUGS. And throughout our building, we have these 6 banners that each of the letters in PLUGS we are focusing on each month. And the P is positive role models. The L was lifelong learners. The U is understanding of others. The G is generous towards all. And our S is service to others. And we have banners throughout the building. Our monthly focus, we pick 1 letter. We are now obviously into the U's. And every morning when I give announcements, we have focused my little saying at the end of announcements, and maybe you've heard how it ends every time, but we have focused that thought for the day on whatever we're focused on, whichever letter it is. And the really neat thing is we're making really good use of the TVs that Dr. Trevelyan was kind enough to put in our cafeteria, because each of the teachers each month then picks one of their students that best exemplifies whatever the positive trait is, and then we play that on the different TVs throughout the lunch periods and see what each teacher said about them. So we're getting a lot of recognition for those students. So that's our new program, along with checkpoints and the PLUGS acronym. New things are going away, so I guess you could probably say we're just plugging away at the junior high. Had to get that in there. So, sorry. It was there, I had to use it, so. Any questions? Not a lot new, just fine tuning. I think I would reiterate what Mr. Smith said, that I've got a great staff, great teachers, and hire good staff, and we get good results. So thank you for letting us hire the best out there. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Good evening. As you've heard Lance and Rick say, we're seeing a lot of the same demographic shifts in our population. We are up now to 600 students in the high school. This is my 8th year, and we were, below 500 when I started. So a significant growth of students overall, and the majority of those students that have come to us bring a lot of diversity, ethnically, socioeconomically, and then also a large number of EL students. I have here from last year our SAT results. Those were improvements over the previous year in all areas. We have our performance, the statewide performance, and then our numbers above the state average, 9% above the state average in English, 19% above math, and 15% in passed both. Very proud of our students and our teachers' work on those. Again, in the top tier of the state and number 1 in Indianapolis-Marion County. Below that, our advanced placement summary. Last year we had the most qualifying scores we've ever had, actually from a few fewer tests because of the small size of our senior class. And that senior class had over 60% of the graduates earn at least one qualifying score before they graduated. We can talk more about the AP. The AP Honor Roll report just came out, and we were again named as an AP Honor Roll school, which requires improvement in all of those areas each year. And I know we discussed that last year, and we actually have improvements in each of those 3 columns as well. So more to come on that. On our goals, goals are very similar to the previous year. Still working towards the same things. We want to have a graduation rate over 96%. We were at 98% last year. We are still really shooting for 2/3 of our senior class to get a qualifying AP score before they graduate, where you can see that we keep inching closer and closer to that, while everything says that we should not be able to do that. And then lastly, our SAT that our juniors take, the school day SAT in the spring, our goal is to continue improving there as well. Some things that we're doing, we've also gone away from the NWEA. That was a 3-time-a-year test that was in math, English, and science, and could take up to 2 full class periods for each of those in each of those testing sessions. So looking at 18 hours of testing. Instead of doing that, we're just doing a PSAT in the spring that bookends with the one that we've already been doing in the fall. So we have a real growth measure that means something, that's consistent, and that can help us predict our state accountability test and our students' graduation pathway on that junior SAT. As well, a lot of our teachers volunteered to sign up for some new SAT professional development. The SAT has moved from a paper pencil to a digital, and they've changed some of the ways they ask questions. And I was really proud of our teachers for stepping up to get that professional development through Purdue. And I think we're seeing some dividends there. And then during our school day, we have plug time, which is just a 25-minute class built into the schedule. And during that, we do some SAT test prep, again, that the teachers got during the professional development. We also target remediation, whether it's English or math. AP enrichment, teachers can choose students that they see need extra help or think maybe are right on that bubble and could use a boost. And then we also have work completion time in there. Our study tables program continues to move kids of the widest range of abilities we've ever seen, continues to push them and move them together as a class so that our teachers can be as effective as possible. And that's a summary of what we're hoping to do this year.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. Just a quick comment on the whole improvement plan in general. I think it's wild to reduce everything that you guys do and your teams do to one page, and it is incredibly impressive that you're able to put so much facts and data and all the things that you all include in these reports into one page. I realize that your lives are much more complex than a single sheet of paper. So I just really appreciate the details that are in here, and blown away, candidly, that all of the attendance that we saw was over 95%, which says that we've got a great place to go to school and kids enjoy coming here, and that's how they learn, right? They're not going to learn unless they show up. So just great job to everyone. I thought I was really impressed.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Since you brought it up, we had Operation Football come visit our campus a couple weeks ago. We had half of our students get up and get to school by 6:30 to be there on the news and show their spark plug spirit. We just also had our homecoming dance from 7-8 years ago when there were 20 kids that would show up. We had over 320 students. Wow. So again, over half of our students.
I think it was 14 because I was in charge.
You got all the extra pizza.
I did. I ate it all.
So yeah, to have more than half of our students show up to the homecoming dance, have no issues there. Everybody just had a lot of fun. Again, it shows exactly what you're saying. Kids love to be at our school because it's a great place to be.
I think that's, I've been thinking about on each of these, that attendance piece and just how do you go from 96 to 97 to 9? And I think, at that point it becomes, I don't want to not be here. Whether it's because of the rigor, and I can't afford I need to be there to get or it's the character, the friend, but whatever it is, we're doing it well. And we're just super proud of y'all.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. And as, you know, you guys that are done with whatever part you have to do tonight, see you later. Feel free.
Thank you, Jay and Jason, too. I know you didn't speak much, but thanks.
Because we're on item 8 of 17, so. Okay, well, we are going to go to number 9, which is from the wonder of school improvement plans to approving the property damage and professional liability insurance coverage. Woo!
Yes, thank you, Madam President. One of my favorite things here, not, but the recommendation is approved. This is a routine matter. Each year, we go back and we go to the market to try the best liability insurance rate we can find. And the recommendation is to improve. Unfortunately, it is an increase for property damage liability insurance. Speedway schools continue, though, to have the best ratings as A, excellent this term. For this year, it'll be, again, from October 2024 to 2025. The coverage continues to be a blanket building, business, property, personal property, and earthquake. We have enhancements with replacement cost coverage, school extension, ultra, plus endorsement, data compromise coverage, earthquake, equipment breakdown, additional coverage property such as lighting, fencing, scoreboards, bleachers, playground equipment, concession stands, and press boxes, dugouts. The deductible stays at $10,000. Unfortunately, the overall increase is a 13.6% increase, which is down from last year. But it's just the world we live in right now. So the recommendation is to approve this property damage liability insurance.
What's the board pleasure on this?
I move that we approve the property damage and professional liability insurance coverage as presented.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the property damage and professional liability insurance coverage as presented, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. The 10th item is much more fun. It is to approve the junior high field trip.
I have good news here. Amy Cronin is taking her junior high banner. She's asking to take an out-of-state field trip, which we bring to the board each time, to Kings Island on Saturday, May 3rd, 2025. This trip is every other year for our junior high students, and if you guys can work your magic, if you'd like to be a chaperone for this, just let me know. I'll put you on the bus. The recommendation is to approve this request.
I have been a chaperone on that.
I have been a chaperone.
So you only get it one time, so
Yeah.
you guys are up.
I move that we approve the junior high field trip.
I'll second.
Any comment? Okay. All in favor of approving the field trip, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. Okay, the 11th item is a mouthful, to approve the resolution to transfer amounts from the education fund to the operations fund on a reoccurring monthly basis beginning January 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Madam President. This is actually a routine. Once a year, we go through this. The action allows the treasurer, Nancy Johnson, to transfer funds from the education fund to the operation fund to pay expenses charged to the operations fund, which was previously charged to the education fund. So when everything changed back in 2010, we've been doing this every year. So the recommendation is to approve this resolution.
I move that we adopt the resolution to transfer amounts from the education fund to the operation fund on a recurring monthly basis beginning January 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of approving this resolution of education to operations, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. And I do have these to sign right now. Okay, and while this is finishing up, we'll go on to item 12, which sounds the same, but is the flip. So this is the resolution to transfer amounts from the operations fund to the education fund before December 31st, 2025.
This allows the treasurer to transfer the funds from the op to the ed fund to pay expenses in the education fund, which were previously charged to the capital projects fund. These are such as educational software expenses would be an example for this. But again, it gives Nancy Johnson the authority to do this.
I'll move that we adopt the resolution to transfer amounts from the operations fund to the education fund before December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the resolution to transfer amounts from the operations to education fund, indicate by raising your hand. That passes. Okay. Item 13 is a resolution to transfer amounts from the referendum fund to the education fund before December 31st, 2025.
And finally, this action allows the treasurer to transfer those funds from the referendum to education to pay the expenses of the education fund, which were previously charged to the referendum fund. There are expenses associated with extracurricular activities such as coaches, academic coaches, band, choir, clubs, etc.
I'll move that we adopt a resolution to transfer amounts from the referendum fund to the education fund before December 31, 2025.
And I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of approving this resolution, and this is the referendum to education, indicate by raising your hand. And that also passes 5-0. Okay. We are going to, in item 14, acknowledge grants to the tune of $68,258.97. Thank you, thank you. The 15th item is to approve the personnel report. Mr. Kinsey?
Personnel report in your packet has fewer items on it than we've had in the past meetings. We have 2 resignations. The first is Sierra Venable, who worked as a social-emotional mentor with our elementary schools. Second is Amanda Totten, who was a cafeteria worker, 6-hour worker at the Fisher Junior High building. There's one request for a disability leave. That's Miranda Melson. She's a paraprofessional at Fisher Elementary from December 18th to January 24th. And then there's 3 recommendations for an employment. I'm happy to say that Karen Stomotkin, custodian for us, is returning back to us. Amber Roth, who is being recommended for the junior high musical director. We are resurrecting that program that has been gone since COVID. Happy to say that. And then Hayla Cross. Hayla's a Speedway graduate. She's coming back and is working as a paraprofessional, and we're recommending the special projects, a half stipend, which means that she will get compensated for her work with theater and with our band programs. My recommendation is to approve the personnel report as presented.
I move that we approve the personnel report as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion on this? Thanks for all your continued work on that. All in favor of approving the personnel report as presented, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. All of our visitors have left, with the exception of our esteemed attorney. And so we will retire to approve claims. Thanks.
Before they leave, let's get signatures.